This is the Erik the Travel Guy podcast.
Thank you, Aaron, and welcome back to the podcast. It is going to be another rip-roaring, exciting episode. Today, we're talking all about cruise time and your flight time. And wait until you hear who is the vacation VIP if you've ever considered taking a Star Wars vacation. This is the episode for you. I am Erik the Travel Guy. Thank you for joining us once again this week. If you've not heard this podcast before, well, I'm here to help you with this. I've got ideas on where to go, what to do, and where to stay on your next vacation in the hopes that you will make the most out of that next trip. And frankly, you know, I've said it a million times, I don't really care where you go as long as you go. Now, if you're unfamiliar, I'm happy to share with you, I travel all over the world. I host a television series for PBS called Beyond Your Backyard. We are celebrating our 5th season this year, as a matter of fact, and we're very excited about that. One of the ways we get to some of the places we go is via cruise ship. And I'm always surprised when especially first-timers don't quite understand what the situation is with the timing. So that kind of leads our travel tip segment this week, where we talk about flight timing, especially with the logistics. And here's the bottom line. I can clear this up for you in like 2 sentences, okay? The cruise ship is not going to wait for you. Yes, let me repeat that once again. If you can't get to the dock on time, the cruise ship will leave. A lot of times you'll hear them say there's an all-aboard time or an onboard time, and then there is a departure time or a sail-away time. But you only need to worry about what time do you need to be on board at the latest. Now, that's the other thing, too. That's at the latest. You can always show up a little earlier. There's nothing wrong with that. But whether it's leaving for the first time, perhaps out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Tampa, or it's in the ports of call, you know, they say, listen, all aboard time is 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Sail away time is 4 o'clock. That's what time they are leaving. And that is according to ship time, which I think is another thing that's worth noting here. All cruise ships do this. It does depend on where you're going, I suppose. But a lot of times if ships are dancing between time zones, this happens a lot in the Caribbean, the ship itself won't actually change time zones. So the ship keeps what it calls ship time or ship's time. So either way, you'll want to pay attention to what ship time is, because it may not be what your phone, if you're getting data on your phone for whatever reason, it may not be what your phone says it is. You could be an hour behind or an hour ahead because you're not paying attention to ship time. That's another reason to go ahead and make sure, if you're going on a cruise, to download their app. I'm sure most of you do that already, but that will help you keep things nice and tidy. Now, you might say, well, Erik, you know, we hate cruising. We're not going on a cruise. Now, by the way, if you're saying that, that's because statistically speaking, you probably haven't been on a cruise. And those of you who know when you go on a cruise, the cruise industry knows you'll be back, or statistically speaking, you will be back, because people that go on cruises love going on cruises and they return. However, unless you live by a cruise port, you are going to have to actually take an airplane to get there. Now, in case you're just joining us, my name is Erik the Travel Guy. This is the weekly podcast. I'm hoping that you have signed up for the newsletter already. You can do that at erikthetravelguy.com. That's where we post this podcast. It's also on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And if you wish to watch what I'm saying, you can do so at YouTube, because we post this as well. You can see my long hair, which I think this week will be the last week for the long hair, because the show is closing that I'm in, The Odd Couple. And so I'm going to cut my hair. I'm not going to. Somebody's going to cut it. Anywho, one of the topics you'll find in a lot of articles, there's actually a section of the blog that's dedicated to air travel, because air travel is really important. I mean, look, if you want to go somewhere, what are you going to do? Walk there? You know, you're probably going to fly there if you're not going to drive there. So I think when it comes to timing, and I know we've got to get to our VIP today, Star Wars, really? A Star Wars vacation? You're going to talk about, like, that would be just, and you would not believe this guy. All right, I'll get to it in a minute. you are going to have to fly to that vacation, and you're going to be on an airplane. And I think we need to do like a little bit of a paradigm shift in the way we think about how we plan for our flights. In other words, you and I have talked many times about the importance of taking the first flight in the morning. Very important. The airports don't have time to get backed up yet. The turbulence isn't as bad in the morning sometimes, depending upon the route. It's nice to just get out, nobody likes to get up in the middle of the night and go to the airport, but then again, there's not as many people there sometimes. Anywho, I always recommend taking that, but that's not what I'm talking about. So if you follow my advice and say, take that, 7 a.m. flight, or take that 6 a.m. flight out of whatever. Well, there's a number of times associated with that flight, and we only focus on usually two of them, but the most important one that we focus on is our departure time, which in this case, as I just gave you as an example, is 6 a.m., say for instance. Well, that's when the airplane is going to actually pull back from the gate. That's called an on-time departure. Let's say it's 6:02, right? 6:02 Eastern. Well, the most important time that you need to be aware of, once you know that 6:02 Eastern, is the boarding time. And that information can be found on some of the airline apps, but as a general rule of thumb, just remember boarding usually starts 45 minutes prior to scheduled departure. And I think that's a really important note, because you could be planning this trip for, 8 weeks from now or 10 weeks from now. And you say, I'm going to take that 6 a.m. flight. And for 8 weeks, all you remember is I got to be at the airport for a 6 a.m. flight. Well, hold on a second. No, you don't. You need to be at the airport for a 5:15 in the morning flight. Okay, that's what time you need to be standing at the gate. Now, you and I both know, especially if you have kids in tow, getting to a 5:15 a.m. gate can be somewhat problematic. If you're doing international, you need to be there 3 hours ahead, maybe 2.5 if you really stretch it. Domestic, and you're not checking luggage, maybe 90 minutes, maybe an hour tops. If you're checking luggage, definitely 2 hours, or you could stretch to 90 minutes. My point is that I want you to back up your airport arrival time based on your boarding time and not your departure time. Okay? That will save you a world of headache. Especially if you're traveling with folks that, they're not as good at getting up in the morning, or they're not the most timely people in the entire world. That's fine. You just need to do the math and know, that's, I think those two times are really critical, because then you're going to deal with your flight time, which is a lot of fun. It's a little, you think like we're up there just kind of flying around, when in fact you're flying with precision equipment, precision operation, precision planning down to the second. So when your first officer or your captain gets on there and says, our flight time today is, 3 hours and 16 minutes, that is from the time that the wheels come off the ground for takeoff and the time that they touch back down again. So they call it takeoff and landing, or takeoff and touchdown. That is your flight time. And if I play a little game with myself, it's kind of fun. When we take off, I start a stopwatch, or I start a timer, and see how close they get it. And it's usually within a couple of minutes. Pretty cool, unless there's some strange delay, which does happen from time to time. But anywho, and then of course you have your arrival time. That's the most important. That's the time you're going to arrive at the gate. Now it could take you an hour to get from the gate through baggage claim, maybe through immigration. It could take 2 hours, whoever's picking you up from the airport. So be aware of that. And that's another reason why I think one of the things we'll do on this show, we're not going to do it this week, we don't have time, is talk about the need for a travel advisor, especially to places you don't know. And I'm telling you, even if you have no interest in Star Wars, wait until you hear from the Vacation VIP, my special guest this week. You're going to love this guy. I love this guy. He will be here in just a matter of moments from Mosaic, North Africa. We will continue with Erik the Travel Guy in just a matter of seconds. Don't move a muscle.
This is the Erik the Travel Guy podcast.
You are listening to Erik the Travel Guy. In some cases, you may be watching it. And if so, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Don't forget, every one of these links is on our website at erikthetravelguy.com. So if you forget something or you hear something like, oh, I don't remember what you can always just go to erikthetravelguy.com. You can look up this week's episode, which is episode 3, and you'll find the links for everything that we've talked about. Ivan Ling is here. He's from Mosaic, Northern Africa. And if you've not been to starwars.tours, you are really missing out. He joins us from Tunisia on this edition of the podcast. Ivan, it's good to talk to you, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited.
Now, if I understand correctly, you've lived in Tunisia since, 2019 or 2014? Somewhere around in there, right?
2019.
Yeah. Why did you decide to move there? Can we talk about that real quick before we go?
Sure. So my family and I moved over to North Africa. We lived in Morocco previously, just to experience the world and try something new. I got connected with some friends who knew the owners of Mosaic North Africa, and it just seemed that my gifts worked with what they needed at the time, and so came on board them and relocated. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to talk about Star Wars because I know the company does other things, but if you don't mind, today I'd love to focus on the Star Wars tours because I think, first of all, I would imagine most of the people watching or listening don't even know that that's available. How do you define what a Star Wars vacation is? Can we start there?
Sure. So can I just give a little background about the company, and then we'll talk about the product and what people can do. And so whether or not people travel with us is really not what we're after. There's just some great stuff in this country, great stuff in North Africa. Once again, our company is a Canadian company, started in 2012. We have several sales reps, and we all live in North Africa. We've all lived in North Africa for quite a while. We've all been to the Star Wars sites several times. There's about 12 sites where they filmed episode 1 and episode 4. All the places are in these beautiful, natural kind of locations. And there's culture, there's nature, and of course the Star Wars stuff. So most people want to come and see the Lars Homestead, the vaporizer farm, the moisture farm from episode 4. So both the igloo house and the Luke Skywalker's house where he has blue milk with Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen is in Tunisia. They're actually 2 separate sites, and they were kind of composited into make this house for Luke Skywalker. So those are the two kind of the 2 sites that everybody wants to see. But I would venture to say that the most impressive site is actually the Mos Espa town that they built for the movie in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And that is just out there, and people can come and visit. There are other sites as well. There are some sites from deleted scenes. Obi-Wan Kenobi's house is out here. The Mos Eisley Cantina, the exterior of that shot is out here as well. Anakin Skywalker's home when he was a slave is out here. There's lots to do, lots to see, and we love it.
That's awesome. When people call, do they have any idea how much time they need to spend? What do you recommend? I would imagine you get that question a lot, but it's how am I going to be there 3 weeks? Am I going to be there 2 days? Help me out here.
Sure. So all the sites are in the south of the country. The main international airport for the country is in the north. And so most people think that it's not going to take very much time, and they want to be able to see the sites in about 2 days. The reality is that first day is a lot of driving just to get to the south. So it's probably about a 6 to 7 hour drive to the first site once you land. So I love it. I would definitely suggest 5 days minimum to see most of the sites. If you want to see all the sites, 8 days is more like it. And even then, that's kind of pushing it a little bit. People get very tired after long drives.
Well, but again, they get tired with the long drives. But remember, we're in the desert. The heat. We forget that it can be oppressive, would be the word I might use.
That's correct. Of course, all our vehicles are air conditioned, and that helps for sure. But yes, the heat is still a very real thing.
Yeah.
I would suggest people come in the spring and in the fall when the weather is a little bit more moderate and favorable.
Are these tours private tours? Are they group tours? Can we go with other people? Should we go with other people? What do you help us? I would imagine price has something, will dictate some answers here, but what do you say?
Sure. So our company specializes in private tours. So you travel with whoever you bring as your group. So whether that's your family or we have lots of couples that travel with us. And we're not talking just the Star Wars tours. We're talking about all of North Africa. We've got tours in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt. And we're always looking for other opportunities. Or we have like groups of friends that come that want to travel together, maybe a couple families that are good friends that want to come together. And those are the people that you will travel with. We never put individuals together with other people. So that is often requested just because of the cost, as you mentioned. Obviously, the smaller the group, the higher the cost, because we provide a private vehicle and private tour guide. And so the more people to shoulder the cost, the cheaper it is per person. And I definitely recommend traveling with at least one person. It's just more fun to travel with somebody else. Of course, our guides all speak English, and they're great with people, and people enjoy talking to the guides, but there's nothing like traveling with somebody you already know.
Well, and I suppose there is something to be said for, well, if you were on a, for lack of a better description, group tour with other like-minded individuals that you could find commonality in your own, whether you're drinking wine or doing a Star Wars thing, whatever it is you're doing, there is something to be said for that. However, then you're talking about logistically, it becomes a little more, now you're on a bus, now you're with 40 people, you got to move 40. What I like about what you're saying is, no, this is about you and what you want to see and how we can help you achieve that. Because the other question I would want to know right off the bat is this a vacation that I could plan on my own? It would seem to me, logistically, it'd be a little troublesome.
Sure. It's absolutely possible to plan on your own if you'd like. There are some challenges, particularly in the south of this country, where some of the accommodations aren't available on the internet for you to book, and you'd have to actually pick up the phone and make a phone call. But then the question is, do you speak the language? And that's one of the things that our company does. We live here. We speak the language. We've developed relationships with the local businesses as well. And so we've put together our itineraries, and we can definitely help customize some of those itineraries if people need that. But we offer service, and we also recognize that people can do this themselves. And ultimately, we want people to come to this country and just enjoy this country. And there's so much to offer here. And we'd love for Tunisia just to be put on the map.
I was going to say, that's a really good point, because I was just at Epcot yesterday, and people love to come down to Hollywood Studios and see Galaxy's Edge. Is that what it's called? I always forget the name of it. Because it's really interesting. Like you feel like you're walking into, it's Disney. They do a very good job of that immersion, but that's what it's about. Here, what's interesting to me is that you might be going to see Luke's house or those two composite locations, but what you're going to walk away with is not only did you take photos and videos there, but you're going to be in a completely different immersive experience that I think most people would tell you they were completely surprised by and loved. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I've never been to Walt Disney World myself. I'm actually from California, so I have been to Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. So speaking from my own experience there, I mean, Disney always does a great job. They've always done a great job with whatever they do. Just world-class entertainment. And certainly it's attainable for a lot of people because it's stateside. But yeah, we offer something completely different. There's this raw feeling of just being in the desert, being in the south of this country, being immersed in what really inspired George Lucas create this saga. In the 70s when they first filmed this thing, Tunisia, where a lot of the buildings, they still kind of look that way from the 70s to this day.
Right.
Before the internet, before digital content was available, it looked like just a weird kind of place that was perfect for tattooing. And so he was able to take advantage of that, and it's been great that he's had success, and we're so grateful that some of these sets are still here, and we can visit them and bless the local economy as well as we do that. While we call it Star Wars.tours, that's just a domain name that we saw that was available and we jumped on it. We don't provide tours of every single location in the world that has filmed Star Wars. I mean, there's locations all over the world, right?
Not yet. Not yet.
We'll see what happens in the future. And that's, and honestly, most of our clients are interested in the episode 4 stuff. The episode 1 stuff, if they care, is just kind of a bonus. With Pinewood Studios, they're more known for the newer stuff, which, there are mixed emotions about that, and different people have different opinions on that. And so, I have not had fielded that question before, so.
And they always will have opinions, no matter what. But again,
absolutely.
You talk about, and I wouldn't try to nail you down on pricing. This is not an inexpensive trip. We're going to be saving for this trip. It's a once in a lifetime trip, right? We're not coming back, year after year because the sets aren't going to change. Correct? Like this is kind of a one time thing, right?
That's right. We are definitely not a cheap kind of product.
Right.
But we do pride ourselves in offering a very refined product. English-speaking guides, we've got all the logistics taken care of for you. Most of our clients are staying in 4- and 5-star plus accommodations. We're taking care of everything for you once you hit the ground.
What's cool about your company, too, and people don't know this, and I certainly do just by looking into it, they might come for a Star Wars tour one year and find out that they really liked how well you took care of them, and they may come back and do Egypt in a couple of years, or they may do somewhere else. I would imagine that does happen quite a bit.
Yeah, we do have a number of repeat clients and word of mouth clients that were just referred by other clients. So, that's the best marketing for us.
I cannot tell you how appreciative I am of you taking time out of your day to do this today. I really appreciate it. This has been great. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for reaching out, and we hope you can make it over here sometime.
What I tell you, this guy, I'm telling you, what a great job. I said it in the interview. What a great job. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this week. As you know, we do a new episode of the podcast every week, Thursday, 5:30 in the morning. That way you can equip yourself with some daydreaming about your next vacation all weekend long. Then we do it again on Thursday. Don't forget, erikthetravelguy.com is where you'll find the links. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again next week. I'll see you in line at security.
This is the Erik the Travel Guy podcast.